Entrepreneurial Edge is brought to you by Business Banking from FNB, because small ideas can lead to big business. FNB, how can we help you?
A very warm welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge. I'm Natasha Jacobs. Now this week we're talking to Mike Abel of MNC Saatchi Abel about his agency. The company recently turned 2 years old. In their first year had revenue growth in excess of 33 million rand. Well, we'll find out more about the success shortly. But first let's go behind the scenes to find out more about what they do.
MNC Saatchi was founded by the Saatchi brothers in 1995. They were obviously the famous Saatchi brothers who founded Saatchi & Saatchi, and when they left that company they started MNC Saatchi, which stands for Morris & Charles. And in 2009, Mike Abel, who was heading up the MNC Saatchi group in Australia, was approached by Lord Morris Saatchi to come and open up MNC Saatchi in South Africa. And so in February 2010, we opened up MNC Saatchi Abel in South Africa with an office in Cape Town, and then followed about 7 months later with me opening an office with Mike in Johannesburg. We'd like to think of ourselves as a strategic business and marketing communications consulting group that also happens to do great ads. Our focus is absolutely to grow our clients' top line, to grow their market share. That's our single-minded business focus, and that's what we hold up as our ambition, and that's what we rally around as a team. And we do that through delivering great ideas, with the help of some fantastic talent and just brilliant people. We're talking to clients who obviously have brands, who have businesses that need help in terms of meeting challenges, in wanting to seize opportunities, understanding how they can better connect with customers, how they can change behavior, how they can get people to buy more, how they can grow their market share, how they can grow their business. And obviously brand is a part of that, but it's got a much broader context in terms of how we engage with clients strategically, in terms of being able to shift behavior out there. So getting consumers to behave differently, getting people to think differently about your brand, think differently about your business, engage differently with your product, obviously in a way that you desire, so as to be enabled to grow your market share, to be successful. And those are the clients that we work with, people who understand that a solution doesn't just sit in an executional space. Yes, the creative idea is fantastic in terms of amplifying and wrapping that strategic solution, but it is about understanding that ultimately to generate success off the back of what you do in the space of your brand is about understanding how the organization needs to behave to deliver that lived experience for consumers, so that ultimately we're doing remarkable work which gets them to behave in the way that we'd like them to. We've had a fantastic run in the past 2 years. We've grown from starting off in February 2010 with I think 14 people, and end of this month will be about 100 people across the Johannesburg and Cape Town offices. So we've had phenomenal growth, and we continue getting more people on board. We've got a fantastic range of brands in the stable now, and there are absolutely plans in terms of expansion. We've taken additional office space in Johannesburg as well as in Cape Town, and we're looking at opening up new divisions, but all of it is obviously within the mix of considering how the addition of extra skill set and divisions can be really useful to our clients and our ability to help them to solve problems. But lots of exciting news which we'll be sharing in the next couple of months in terms of additional expansion.
With me in studio now, the man behind the agency, Mike Abel. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Natasha.
Now, the brand Saatchi comes with a very illustrious history.
Yes.
Are there any, or were there any, pressures to live up to the brand name?
I think so. Saatchi is the most famous name in advertising in the world. It's not a historic brand name, it's a lived brand name. So whereas the great founders of many ad agencies are long gone, my boss, Morris the Lord Saatchi, and his partners are still relatively young. So they started the agency 41 years ago. Morris was 23 years old. So he's only 64 years old today. So I guess from my very first job interview with him, you kind of sit there and you think, my goodness, this is, Morris the Lord Saatchi, and what an expectation. But the way the company is constructed is very much around empowering individual magic. So it's an empowering philosophy as opposed to one that you feel, I guess, stifled by or what's the word I'm looking for? Restricted by. Perfect.
Now, speaking of the good Lord Saatchi,
yes.
We heard in the insert that he actually approached you for the positions 2 years ago. We know the company is 2 years now.
Yes.
What was that experience like, having one of the most famous, men in advertising saying,
yes.
Mike, we think you're the man to open up our operations in South Africa?
Very exciting. The request actually came through Marie McLennan, who is the worldwide CEO of the MNC Saatchi Group.
Yes.
And Morris and his partners are the heads of the PLC, the listed entity on the London Stock Exchange. So Murray had been discussing it with Morris and David and the other partners, who are actually all the original partners that founded Saatchi and Saatchi all those years back. And I was very happy in Australia, and the region was going very nicely. And they felt it was logical for their growth to take somebody that was well entrenched in the South African market and fan out his network that way, to say, South Africa is a strategic region for us. Africa is a strategic continent for us. Would you consider heading that region? I don't think that at the time they anticipated me going back personally and running it, but very flattering to be asked.
Well, we mentioned that you guys are
yes.
2 years old this month. Let's go back to February 2 years ago. Having the name, getting the initial business, did that help?
Well, yes. I think coming back to South Africa and opening MNC Saatchi as a very established international brand name, a very famous name, obviously did help, and that was part of the strategic decision. I think all global networks, you try and take that, that name and that cachet,
brand equity,
that's right, into the marketplace. But we didn't come here and open up with any clients. So it's one thing, having an established brand name in Saatchi, and another having, I guess, a very established name in Abel, and opening the agency here in partnership. But very quickly you realize that, you need to wash your own face and, feed the people that you've hired in establishing it, because you've got all these, people that have gone with you and taken this leap of faith. Because when we opened on day one, we had absolutely no clients. So a lot of global networks, when they open in a market, 50% of their revenue is taken care of immediately through global alignments and global business. When we opened here, we had nothing.
How did you get those clients?
A funny thing, from the most unexpected places, actually. You imagine that a lot of the clients that you've helped enormously over many years will come rushing back. But one of the lessons for me was, yes, they might love you or trust you as an individual, but were formerly in their lives a part of a very, very big organization. So they know Mike and they trust Mike, but what will he be like by himself? and one of the clients actually said that to me. They said, Mike, let's see what you do over the next few years. And if you do build this into something amazing, then sure, we'd love to give you our business. But let's first see how you go. Now, obviously, the challenge in that is if everybody adopts that mentality of waiting and seeing. So our initial clients that came to us, we were very lucky that in week one, we got a call from the Residor Hotel Group that owns the Radisson and the Park Inn, and they asked us to pitch for the business, and we won that business. So by week two, we had a very respected international client, which was great. And then a whole pocket of people came to me with projects, specific projects that they said, we can't move the account to you guys, but we would like you to look at this, or we would like you to look at that. And through word of mouth and organic growth, it started to, gain traction and grow. And we grew very, very nicely. I think that in the first 11 months, we grew from 14 people on day one to around about 50 people by the end of our first 11 months.
Fantastic. Now, besides getting those initial clients,
yes.
What were some of the difficulties starting up in the South African market?
Okay. So obviously, the environment is a tough environment. And coming back into this market, I absolutely did feel like I had the guns of Navarone aimed at me. I think that my friends and my family were happy to see me back here, but I'm not sure that the industry was naturally that happy to have me back here. So it was quite tough, and you've got to persevere and you've got to, take the hard knocks. But my adage has always been that if you hire the best possible people, you'll have the best possible agency. If it's not that, then I don't know what it is. So it was really about surrounding ourselves with people that I really liked, people I trusted, people I'd worked with before. And then you have a very secure base emotionally from which to operate, because you've got these people watching your back and you watch theirs. And then you basically put your talent to play. I think what is tough is you expect it to come running in immediately. And people want to see what you're doing first. And I'm an impatient man, and I'm an ambitious man. So, as are my partners. And we opened here with a very distinctly different offering. So I didn't come back here to run a similar company to the one that I led before.
Because the Australian market is substantially different to the South African one, if I'm not mistaken.
It is and it isn't.
Yeah.
In fact, when I got to Australia, a friend of mine said to me, I'll give you 2 useful pieces of advice. Australia and South Africa are exactly the same.
Well, half of South Africa is sitting in Australia at the moment.
That's right. Yet entirely different.
Yeah.
And I think that the difference is the stuff that happens between the notes. So on a superficial level, you might think they're very similar. The markets are actually very different. One of the big differences is accountability in the Australian market. A real expectation of return on investment for your marketing buck. In South Africa, historically, that hasn't, in truth, been a primary orientation. So the positioning for our agency has been the accountable agency. We will give you a return on your investment. We will give you market share and top-line growth. Was a very strong message to come back and timeless. And I think that clients were looking for something very different. And knowing our track records, and if I look at myself and my partners, and the brands that are market leaders in South Africa, there seems to be a happy intersection at some point in time between the brands that we've handled and those that become market leaders. So I think it was about getting the right people, getting the right talk on the street about the company, and I think the clients that gave us opportunities were delighted by the results. So we've had terrific organic growth within the client organizations that have entrusted us with their business.
Well, we're almost going to a short break, but before we go, you bring up talent throughout the conversation.
Yeah.
How important is it getting and retaining that key client in an industry we know is continually churning, and sometimes some would say it has a very high burnout rate?
Yes. I think you have to look in unexpected areas. So we haven't looked, as Jacques said in the introduction, we are a strategic marketing and communications consultancy that just happens to do ads. So we do a lot of ads, we do them very well. But our primary purpose is to understand the client's business objective, and then how is that translated into a marketing objective, and then how is that translated into a communications objective and outcome. So you attract people from different industries. So we have consultants that have joined our company from a number of the very prestigious consulting groups. Now, you wouldn't traditionally look at that as a catchment area for advertising talent, and yet they're doing enormously fresh things that I actually haven't been exposed to before. So it's a wonderful and exciting growth curve for me as well. So I think that the people that have come in, even some people that were older and maybe even possibly a bit jaded, have been reignited by the opportunity and the exposure to the fresh talent and things.